Hello and welcome to another Smaulgld podcast. Today is September 24th, 2019, and tonight's topic, ECB's Mario Draghi says we should try modern monetary theory, and Christine Lagarde says that numerology is important. We're going to talk about the European Central Bank under the leadership of Mario Draghi and how he thinks the central bank should behave after he leaves and hands over its stewardship to Christine Lagarde. So let's first talk about what happened in the market today. It was a very interesting day today. We had, I think they're going to have impeachment proceedings against Donald Trump. I don't think that's going to go anywhere, but of course it will upset the markets a bit, just a little bit. And today the gold and silver markets reacted. The gold market reacted, and so did the silver market, to some less than stellar economic news, which means we're probably going to see more interest rate cuts from the Federal Reserve. Consumer confidence down just a little bit. I think the Richmond Fed was a negative number too. So not good numbers on the economic front. So gold price went higher. Gold went up $8.66, up a half a point. And we're steadily now really holding a $1,500 mark. That is the mark that I said that gold, if it hit 1,500, stayed at 1,500, broke through that 1,375 glass ceiling that it had for the last 5 years, then we would be in a sustained bull market, and that's when silver's dormant monetary demand would start to come to life, and that unsustainable gold-silver ratio would start to come down, but not before then. And it looks like gold is doing its magic. It's a 1531 close, and I think that's where it is about right now in the aftermarkets. Now today, silver did not rise with gold, but the trend is pretty much intact. Silver did not rise at all today, but remember yesterday, it had a huge day, up 3.5%. A little profit taking today, so the price was down, was pretty much flat, and it currently is at 1860. And so if you take in today's after hours price, it's essentially flat. And silver's starting to move higher, and that means that the gold-silver ratio is going to come down just a little bit. And now I think it's in the 80s. I think there it is, 82.4. Had been higher, but it is indeed coming down. Now the cryptocurrencies yesterday, if you remember, we were talking about how the altcoins, the top four altcoins, Ethereum, Ripple, Bcash, and Litecoin, all kind of took a hit at the same time. And Bitcoin didn't. Bitcoin gradually went down, did not take one big major hit and then go down. And yesterday was the day that they launched the Bitcoin physically delivered futures exchange backed, which is backed by the New York Stock Exchange. And yesterday was a very weak day for the backed exchange. We discussed that yesterday, what might be some of the reasons. And today I think it became a bit more clear what's going on with backed. First of all, why did we have low volume? We had a little higher volume today. I think they traded 71 Bitcoins yesterday, 156 today. But maybe it's because physically delivered Bitcoin is not a big selling point. For example, the traders on COMEX for gold and silver, the delivery, 90 some odd percent of the contracts don't end up in a delivery. They roll them over, they expire, they cash out. So physically delivered contracts aren't necessarily a hallmark of an exchange, a futures exchange. Now, we do have over-the-counter markets where institutions can buy negotiated transactions of Bitcoin. You've got the LBMA in London where you can buy physically negotiated physical transactions of gold or silver. You have those types of places already. What people don't understand about futures markets, someone's going to stand for delivery. They don't understand that when they say that, they're missing the point that that's not what COMEX traders do. That's not what futures traders do. Their number one goal is to trade fiat profit, is to trade price. It's not to stand for delivery. If they want actual, and not that they can't, there is a delivery option now under backed for Bitcoin. There is a delivery option on COMEX for gold and silver. But if you really, if all you want is gold on a particular day and you want it delivered, you buy it. You go to a broker or you go on the OTC and you buy your gold and you take delivery. So the idea that somehow there's this pent-up demand perhaps for Bitcoin in, quote, physical delivered form for institutions may be a misnomer. We have the CME Group already launched in 2017 a Bitcoin futures contract. It's all cash settled, but for the most part, if an institution is interested in gaining some exposure to Bitcoin, they're not interested in custodial arrangements. Clearly, they can't treasure it or ledger or whatever they do itself. But the idea of taking delivery of the Bitcoin might be just as attractive as taking delivery of the gold or silver, i.e. not attractive at all. So maybe the reason we have this low backed trading volume is because even though it's the New York Stock Exchange, there isn't a demand by institutions to actually take delivery of Bitcoin. And the way I think they're going to take delivery of it just gets allocated in their name in the vaulted BNY Mellon. It's a nice setup and everything. Now, the other thing is there is a difference between gold and Bitcoin and silver and Bitcoin. Gold and silver, you really can't take delivery and then spend directly. You'd have to convert it into fiat. And a lot of traders are just not, just like with pork bellies, you don't want to take delivery and then trying to convert them into fiat, sell them yourself. That's what the exchange does. You cash out in your futures contract, and now you have the fiat. One of the things that Bakkt talked about when they launched, because one of their partners was not only Microsoft, was Starbucks, and somehow they were going to create a facility so that you could turn your Bitcoin in and you can use it in commerce. Now, that might be a reason to trade for physical, because unlike gold, having a commodity that is interchangeable as a medium of exchange, like Bitcoin potentially could be, that might be attractive. But right now they haven't talked about this. They advertised part of the platform. They were going to allow participants an easy way to convert the Bitcoin into fiat so they can spend it. Well, they haven't done that. I haven't seen any announcement on that. So basically it's a futures market and you can have Bitcoin delivered. Well, if an institution wants Bitcoin, they can go on the OTC, they can buy it already, or they can buy that, it's not an ETF, it's a fund that's run by Grayscale. They have a Bitcoin fund. They have a fund of other cryptocurrencies. They have single asset funds like Litecoin and Ethereum Classic. You can buy them. So it's not like institutions, this is the first opportunity that institutions could have to buy Bitcoin. They can already buy the CME futures contracts. And as I mentioned, they can buy the Grayscale fund, or they can negotiate transactions on the over-the-counter. So the real key to Bakkt was that it was a physically delivered exchange. It was run by the New York Stock Exchange through its parent company ICE, backed by Microsoft, Starbucks. But there was to be this convertibility into fiat so you can spend it. Well, we haven't seen that yet. So maybe when they bring that out, that might change things. Now, the price, though, did drop across the board in crypto. Yesterday we mentioned the altcoins all fell, but Bitcoin kind of fell down gradually and not really in unison with the altcoins. Well, today, Bitcoin was not spared. Bitcoin fell, boom, right at the same time as the altcoins fell. Big drop. It had been trading in the 9,600 range, and then just boom, fell down to 8,400. In fact, the Bitcoin percentage drop was larger than the altcoin drops because Bitcoin didn't really drop the same with the same velocity or ferocity that the altcoins did yesterday. So Bitcoin actually fell harder, and you can see it's a big drop there all the way down to 8,400. Ethereum fell. This is just a one-day chart we're looking at here. Boom, from 192 down to 166 or so. Then it recovered. And then we had the Ripple also fell at the same time. You can see they're all falling at the same time for about 26.5 cents all the way down to 23.5 cents. Then Bcash. Bcash has been getting hammered lately. Bcash really took a hammering. Here's the Bcash, same thing. It was up around 285, 280, and then boom, all the way down to 2.25. They're all recovering a little bit. I haven't checked in the last hour since I made these charts. Let's just see. Bitcoin's at 8,600, so it's not really going anywhere. And Litecoin is also down. And Litecoin, we mentioned Litecoin. Let's see where they are. They also took a hit, but not as much because they'd already taken a hit yesterday from 65 down to about 57. So I think right now it's at about 58, 59. All right, so that's your cryptocurrency. Let's now get into Christine Lagarde and our friend Mario Draghi. Now, it's quite interesting. Mario Draghi says, the ECB should be open to new ideas like modern monetary theory. Okay, Mario Draghi's on his way out. And remember the other day we covered him and we said, or he said, and we said that he said, that this helicopter money is more a function of the fiscal policy. This is not something that the monetary policy, which is what the ECB is in charge of, can do. And he mentioned, but he also mentioned, we cannot just put the money in the depositor's account. Basically just hand out the money, saying that this is something governments have to do. Fiscal policy, it's not the role of the central bank, but, you know, we should kind of look at this. So some of the things he said, which are quite, again, I am astounded by some of the things that this guy says, but you're going to be more astounded by Christine Lagarde. He said European lawmakers are asking about helicopter money, and again, it's the same type of question that he said, and he mentioned modern monetary theory in a recent paper by former Federal Reserve Vice Chairman Stanley Fischer. Now, Stanley Fischer was Mario Draghi's mentor. And Stanley Fischer used to be the former vice chairman of the Federal Reserve during the Yellen era. And when the Fed finished QE, Fischer convinced Draghi that Europe should start their own. And I think the Fed finished their QE at the end of 2013 and early 2014. ECB was doing theirs, and that was at the direct prompting of Stanley Fischer. So Fisher's a big fan of all this intervention stuff, and Fischer was saying, you know, we should put the money directly in the hands of the public and private sector spenders, meaning not just into the banks. And Draghi said this, and these are objectively pretty new ideas. They have not been discussed by the governing council. We should look at them, but they have not been tasted. Okay, so they have not been tasted. All right. But then he says, when you look at them closely, you realize that distributing money to one subject or the other, that typically is a fiscal task. That's what we said the other day. We were saying exactly the same thing. This is fiscal policy, not monetary policy. He said it's a government decision, not the central bank, but it is a political governance of these ideas that needs to be addressed. So he's saying we should take a look at this lunacy. Now, what is modern monetary theory? Modern monetary theory is basically runs right in the face of what you would think is sound economics. Sound economics means people build up savings. With that savings, they can then invest those savings, and with the investment of those savings, things get done that they can't do on their own. It goes into corporations. Corporations produce products and services. They run through the economy. They hire people. Those people then make money themselves. They have savings. They invest their money, and you can see how all that works. That's how an economy grows. What modern monetary theory says that sometimes it's almost like it's a Keynesian style thing, that if people save the money, you got the thrift paradox, and then therefore people don't spend the money. The Keynesians believe that spending creates the whole economy. that it's almost like a chicken egg thing when you start analyzing it. What comes first, the investment or the spending? The Keynesians obviously believe that spending the money is what creates the demand, and then the demand comes, and if you don't have people spending money, then there's no demand, and the way you stimulate demand is you give people money so they can spend it. That's the theory. Now, there's no limits to how you can get money in people's hands without them having to earn it. Because normally in an economy without government intervention, the way you put money in people's hands is they have to earn it and then they have to save it. There's no other way. But when you have a government intervening, they can give you the money. And then they can directly deposit it into your account and you can spend it from the helicopter. That's basically what Mario Draghi is saying. Now, he can do this because it's a matter of fiscal policy, not monetary policy, you see. Okay, so monetary policy basically says, especially for like a country like the U.S., print the money. You want to do something, you printed the money. You want to have an infrastructure, you printed the money. You want to have Green New Deal, you printed the money. You want to stimulate the economy, you printed the money. And then a normal person would say, whoa. You printed the money, that's going to create inflation, that's going to create an imbalance. Not to worry, don't worry about it. If it gets too high, the inflation, we raise the taxes. So it's basically tax and spend with a little extra print the money. And just put the money in because don't worry about it. If you have to worry about to pay it back, you printed the money. You never run out. Once you can print the money, there's no issue. Okay, that's modern monetary theory. And Mario Draghi saying, don't worry about it. You printed the money. If it's a problem in the economy, we printed the money. We do whatever it takes. This is modern monetary theory. We must take a look. Because if we're not going to print the money, maybe we don't have the growth. If we don't have the growth, then the economy goes down. And we can't have this, so we printed the money. This is essentially all it is. You have grand plans, and if you ask questions, and modern monetary theorists, I'm not exaggerating, I may be using this mockery of Mario Draghi, but they actually believe that, and Bernie Sanders, that's a good thing. The thing about modern monetary policy is the millionaires and the billionaires shouldn't be calling the shots. That money belongs to us. So if we want to print the money, then we're going to print the money. And if it needs to go to things like universal health care, or to things like free education, or eliminating student debt, or whatever it is, then we're going to spend the money. So you may make fun of Mario Draghi, but he's right. That money belongs to us and we're going to spend it. And that's what they think they're going to do. They're going to spend the money. And they don't think, they actually believe that there is this concept that the money is communal. And because they own the printing press, they can direct the economy where they want it. There's no such thing in a wealthy nation as not having enough money. Because you can tax it, you can create wealth taxes, and you can print the money. And that's basically where the modern monetary theorists want to go. Now you say, well, that's wacky. Well, I guess if you look at things from not using the government as a way of stimulating the economy. But we're already, well, I mean, if you think the government shouldn't stimulate the economy, well, we already have all types of, in every economy, even in the United States, you have tax plans, you have stimulus plans, you have tax subsidies, you have tax incentives, you've got the Fed setting interest rates, you have QE. I mean, modern monetary theory doesn't just come out of thin air. All these other things that we've had since the last 50, 100 years are a direct result of, they're just a progression. That's what progressivism is. It's a progression on the extent of government interference in the economy. But what's more disturbing than that is Christine Lagarde. Now, she is going to take over as the head of the ECB. And she endorses all this stuff. Negative interest rates, SDRs, money printing, helicopter money. But people fail to realize She was convicted of criminal charges. Criminal charges. Now, if you are going for some minimum wage jobs, you are disqualified if you have a criminal conviction. That's called being a felon. And now in California, that's called someone who's a justice-involved person. But in most states in the United States, it's hard to get a job, even a minimum wage job, if you have a criminal conviction. And yet this woman is going to be the head of the ECB. I guess she's made her bones, so now she's getting straightened out. She's going to be the head of the ECB. But what's more interesting is her views. Listen to this. Now, I'm not making this. This is going to be her talking to the National Press Club. And this is astounding. She takes the opportunity to address the National Press Club, and she starts talking about numerology in a very serious way. Have a listen.
Do with the global economy and what we should expect for 2014. Now I'm going to test you numerology skills by asking you to think about the magic 7. Okay?
This isn't me
Most
imitating
of you will
her.
know that 7 is quite a number.
Oh, yeah.
In all sorts of themes, religions, and I'm sure that you can compress numbers as well. So, if we think about 2014, all right, I'm just giving you 2014,
Pay
you
attention.
drop the 0, 14, 2 times 7. Okay, that's just by way of example.
Put
We're
it to
going
the
carry
mind.
on.
Yeah.
So 2014 will be a milestone and hopefully a magic year in many respects. It will mark the 100th anniversary of the First World War back in 1914.
That's a good thing.
It will mark the 70th anniversary, drop the 0,
Oh, yeah. Oh.
of the Bretton Woods Conference that actually gave birth to the IMF.
That's a good
And
thing.
it will be the 25th anniversary of the fall of the Berlin Wall. 25th.
Keep that in mind.
It will also mark the 7th anniversary of the financial market jitters that quickly turned into the greatest global economic calamity since the Great Depression. The crisis still lingers.
That's
Yet,
a good thing.
optimism is in the air. We've left the deep freeze behind us, and the horizon looks just a bit brighter.
The
So my
horizon.
hope and my wish for 2014 is that after those 7 miserable years, weak and fragile, we have 7
All right, that's
strong...
enough. This is who's going to run the ECB. Criminally convicted, babbling on about numerology. And with the basis of, we need to look at how we can put the money in the people's bank accounts directly so that we don't have to worry about monetary policy. The fiscal policy does the trick. This is where we are. I want to know what you guys think of all this, but I've been impressed with Jerome Powell. I mean, as far as central banks go, he has been prudent. I don't think he has been, he's been attacked by President Trump, but I don't think he's taken the bait. And he may not be the most charismatic, but he's not talking Looney Tunes like some of these other guys are. And we'll have to see what happens. I'd like to get your thoughts. Thanks a lot for listening.